What do you do when you're starting out as a new entrepreneur and nobody knows who you are or the fact that you are good at whatever it is that you are doing? Today, we're going to talk about how to address that by building your reputation as a new entrepreneur. Hi, if we haven't met before, I'm Luisa Zhou, and this channel is all about helping you build your own online business and succeed as an entrepreneur. With that, let's jump into tip number one, which can feel a little bit counterintuitive, but is actually incredibly powerful and possibly the most important tip. And that is to not worry about building your reputation for the whole world, the whole internet, but to instead focus on building your reputation one person at a time. The reason you want to think about this goes back to a story that's coming to mind of the beginning of Amazon. Jeff Bezos has shared that when Amazon started out, every time they got a sale, they would ring the bell. And it got to the point, of course, where they were eventually making so many sales that they just couldn't stop ringing the bell. It was ringing every second. And that's when they had to stop and do something different. But that attitude of one of the world's most successful companies shows the same attitude that you want to have as a new entrepreneur. And that is that in the beginning, you build your business one person at a time. Think about it. No matter how big or how small your business and your audience is, whether you've got 100,000 people in your audience or zero or just one, and that one person is your mom, it's the same thing. Every single person reading your content, every single person thinking of potentially hiring you is doing so one person at a time on their own. It's not like you've got 100,000 people sitting together, reading your content together, making the decision whether or not to hire you together. And so when you remember that your business is built one person at a time, it goes back to understanding that your reputation is also built one person at a time. When you absorb that, you're able to get out of your head and stop thinking, oh my gosh, I want to have 100,000 people in my audience. I have all of these big goals. How am I going to get there if I'm just focusing on one person at a time? And realize every company, no matter how big, starts out the same way. And if I do that, that's going to give me the experience and the knowledge to be able to know my audience well enough, to be able to create my product well enough, to be able to build my reputation well enough so that I'm able to compound knowing one person at a time, connecting with one client at a time, so that I'm able to scale and scale and scale. And I mean, Amazon's doing pretty well. So tactically, what does that look like? That means when you are starting out, every single person, you want to be thinking about not just, hey, is this person a potential client, but hey, this is one person I'm building my reputation with. And so when you have that in mind, you're not just thinking, okay, is this person potentially going to buy from me? They might or they might not. But even if they don't buy from you, this could be a person who continues to engage on all your content, to share your content, to recommend you to others, to love up on all of the things that you have to create and share. And of course, it might be someone who buys from you, who refers other clients to you, who in the future buys all of your other products. You just don't know. There's so many different ways that are possible for you to build your reputation. And so what you want to be thinking is, as you speak to each person, what is the feeling? What is the memory? What is that relationship I want to be leaving that person with when it comes to me and my business? And when you think about it that way, you're able to get out of your own head and stop thinking about, oh my gosh, how is this going to scale? We've just talked about that. You stop thinking about, oh my gosh, is this person going to become a client or not? Because we've talked about all of the different ways someone might be able to be a part of your audience and really help you in the future outside of just buying from you. Although, of course, they might as well, and that would be awesome. And you get to quiet all of that noise and really focus on talking to a person, helping them, giving away value for free if it's applicable, and really creating that best one-on-one relationship with that person so that your reputation builds one person at a time. And also, by the way, this is incredibly helpful so that if even one person is responding to a post that you wrote, if even one person is reading an email that you sent out, you're able to get out of your own head and stop thinking, oh my gosh, this is not enough. How am I ever going to get to whatever big goal I have? And realize, okay, one person at a time. That's one more than yesterday. That's one more person who knows me and is thinking about me and maybe sharing my content in the future. That is my reputation building, and it's gonna grow so much faster than I might even think. The second tip that I'm gonna share with you is very common, but that's because it's so effective. And I'm gonna share a few new ways of thinking about it and a few new tips surrounding it that you might not have heard before. And that tip is to be consistent. There is nothing more effective that you can do for your business than to be consistent. And one of the top examples that comes to mind is keeping up with the Kardashians. I don't know if you remember, but do you remember, hopefully, in the beginning stages of keeping up with the Kardashians, when Kim Kardashian had just released her sex tape and people were thinking, who is this woman? She's just famous for being friends with Paris Hilton. Now she's famous for having a sex tape. To after a few years had passed, people accepting that she was famous, but still questioning what she was famous for and basically saying, hey, the Kardashians are only famous for being famous and they have no skills or talents. To a few years later, where they are now, I think over 20 seasons of keeping up with the Kardashians. All of the Kardashians are incredibly successful. Kris is known as one of the most brilliant marketers in the world. Kim Kardashian, Kylie Kardashian, they're both billionaires and are very well respected as influencers, leaders in fashion, very strong and smart businesswomen, and leaders in so many other areas. And what it all comes down to, of course, they worked really hard and they showed up every day, but ultimately they were consistent. And because they did that over time, the world changed their opinion of the Kardashians' reputation. Now, of course, you don't need to have the same impact and level of scale that the Kardashian family has to be successful. I mean, they are basically the most successful social media marketers in the world, but the same idea applies. Now, maybe you're thinking, that sounds so good, but you know what? I don't have a reality TV show to help me grow my audience and be consistent. And I'm posting on my Instagram account, or I'm posting in whatever social media platform I'm using, and I have nobody watching me. The truth is, wherever you're starting out, and we pretty much all start out from the same place of zero, that's definitely where I started, you already have more traction than you might think. If you're just starting out, you have your existing friends and family. And even if they're not your ideal clients, they can be sharing your content. They're cheering you on. They're learning from you, and you never know who's watching. And what happens is, as you continue to post consistently, as you do the things that you do to build your business, guess what? That grows bit by bit. And consistency adds up. When you're being consistent, what you're doing is you're showing up in your audience's essentially consciousness every day. You're becoming a part of their daily lives. You're building the trust that, hey, this is someone who is going to be around for a while. They're not just a flash in the pan and then going to give up when they don't get a ton of comments by the end of a week or a month. And as you do that, your audience is going to naturally grow. So if you're getting in your head about being consistent and thinking, what's the point? Let me share with you a few stories that are coming to mind for myself. When I first started out, I was in the same place. I would post a post and I might get one like, if even. And so I definitely was in my head about, okay, I don't know if anybody is gonna be interested in buying from me. That being said, I kept on going. I literally just made it a to-do on my calendar every single day. Post one post. Back then it was on Facebook. And so I'd post one post on Facebook. And you know, I did this. I marked it off on my calendar. I tracked the days. And within about 3 to 4 weeks, I started getting 1 or 2 comments on my posts. Now that might not feel like a lot, but to me, it felt like the world because that was a big improvement from having no comments. And then a few weeks passed by, another few weeks, and I started talking to people. They were commenting more. A few people were reaching out, not a ton. It was just a handful or maybe less than a handful. But then people started asking me about, hey, I've seen you show up. Your content is really good. Can you share with me a little bit about how I can work with you? And what happened was, as time went on and I had started building my reputation as someone who was showing up every single day, I felt a little bit more comfortable promoting some of my services. And that's when I started realizing, whoa, the consistency adds up. Because again, even though I wasn't getting a ton of comments and likes on my posts about my services, I would have someone book an hour with me. I would have someone reach out and ask me questions. And these were people who had never commented on any of my content or who had never liked any of my content either. I will never forget the first time that I heard someone say this, someone who scheduled a sales call with me and said, yeah, I've been seeing your content for a really long time now, and that's what had me reaching out. Otherwise, I wouldn't have scheduled the sales call with you. I never do this. Now, that person actually ultimately didn't end up buying from me. So I just want to put that out there in case you're thinking, oh, it's always so smooth and easy. It's not. There are always going to be bumps along the road. That's just how it works. But that really reminded me that you never know who is watching. So if you're getting in your head about, oh my gosh, this isn't working, why bother? Again, of course, you want to do the things that you need to do to grow your business. You don't want to just be posting on your own account. You want to be doing all the things that I talk about in so many other videos on my YouTube channel about what to do to actually grow your business. But also be remembering that you never know who is watching. And one of the most powerful things you can do for your reputation, if you want to grow and you're serious about this, is to be consistent and to just make it just a to-do that you don't even let yourself talk yourself out of every single day. The final tip that I want to share today with you is really key to building your reputation. And that is to celebrate every single win that you get, no matter how small you think it is. So a question I often get from my students and clients is, hey, I just did this thing. Like I got one client, or I got 5 people into my new group program. And I don't know, it doesn't feel like a lot. How did you celebrate your wins back when your wins were so small? And whenever I get this question, I can't help laughing because my answer is always the same. It's when I had each win, I celebrated it as if it was the biggest win in the world. And I didn't just celebrate it myself, I celebrated it with the world. So when I got my first client, I didn't share right away, hey guys, I got my first client. It wasn't applicable to what I was doing at the time. However, when my first client started getting results, you bet I started sharing that. And I wasn't thinking about, oh my gosh, I only have one client, the results aren't big enough, so on and so forth. I was thinking, oh my gosh, we just ran some ads for this person. They were amazing. The lead costs were super low and they are adding so many people to their audience and they are loving it, right? So at that point, they maybe weren't even driving profits from their ads that we were working on together. Then as time went on and those ads started driving sales, you bet I shared that as well. And again, I wasn't saying, hey guys, I only have one client, this is so small, and so on and so forth. I wasn't caveating it. I was celebrating each win like it was the biggest deal in the world. Now, I wasn't trying to hide anything, right? I was very upfront. This is my client, my first client, and these are the results, but I also wasn't using that as a negative or a reason to not celebrate enough. Another example is when I had my first group program. So I wasn't thinking, oh my gosh, I only have like 15 to 18 people in here. It's not like hundreds of people like other leaders in my industry. Well, I wasn't a leader at the time. Oh my gosh, it's just gonna seem so small. I was thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't even think or know if I was gonna have any people joining the group program because honestly, I didn't have my first person join until about 2 days before the enrollment period closed. And so I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I got way more than I thought I would. And you bet I celebrated it. I actually celebrated each individual person as they joined. And to me, it was the biggest deal in the world. And so when I shared it because I believed it and I really was celebrating it, the world, or quote unquote, my world, my very small world at that time, celebrated it with me. And so what happened was over time, the most important thing to build your reputation is, as I mentioned earlier, is consistency. It's not having a big win or the size of the win, because no matter how big or small a win is, guess what? People forget it. They're not paying that much attention to you. They're living their own lives. And so what happens as you celebrate each win, you are sharing your business growth with the world. And as the world sees that, what they're seeing is someone who is showing up, who is 100% in their business, who cares about every single person that comes into their business, and who shows up day in and day out. And guess what? When you do that, remember back to tip number 1, when we talked about hey, your reputation is built one person at a time. Guess what happens? People, one person at a time, starts really seeing that, really trusting in you, really forming that, okay, so-and-so is this person who shows up. I like them. I trust them. I've seen them continue to grow, and they get to trust you more. The final thing I'll share with you is everything we've talked about might take some time, but that doesn't mean that you can't get results quickly. This goes back to tip number 1, where you're building your reputation 1% at a time. Some people might be ready to buy from you right away. So how I got my first ever client was I helped that person for free for about 2 weeks back and forth by answering their emails. And after 2 weeks, she emailed me out of the blue and she said, hey, you've helped me so much. I'm ready to hire you because I know you're gonna help me even more. And so that was relatively really fast. Then compare that to another story that really sticks out in my mind. I had been at that point running this business for about 3 years and showing up pretty much every day. And I, at that point, was launching a group program, and I spoke to a woman who was considering joining the group program. And she said to me, I have seen your ads on my newsfeed for the past 3 years. When I first saw you, I remember thinking, this woman looks so young and she is so much younger than me. What could she possibly have to teach me? Then as time went on and I saw you continue to show up, I saw you continue to grow your business by leaps and bounds, I started thinking, okay, maybe there is something this woman has to say that would be relevant to me. And so this year, 3 years later, after seeing your first ad, I finally signed up for your free training, and oh my gosh, it blew me away. And that's when she was ready to buy from me. So you've got like 2 weeks to 3 years, and to this day, sometimes people have been on my list for over 7 years before they buy from me. That's okay. It's not your job to worry about one specific person. It's your job to show up every day and let the people, when they are ready, buy from you or connect with you in whatever way. And I share that example so that you don't have to be discouraged by thinking, oh my gosh, I need to wait so many years. Some people will be ready right away, right? But also as you continue to show up, more and more people will be ready and responding to that reputation that you're continuing to build. So everything we talked about just has you really excited to start or continue building your reputation, but you're thinking, okay, now I'm getting in my head about creating content consistently and showing up. Guess what? I've got another great video for you on how to create that content fast, how to do it quickly and consistently. And in that video, I share with you some of my best tips that I've used to be able to consistently create content pretty much almost every day, maybe every weekday, if not at least 3 or 4 times a week for the past over 6 going on 7 years. So I think you're really gonna love that video. I'm gonna link that for you somewhere on the screen and or in the description below. I also have a great PDF for you on my 15-second script to use to get your first or next paying client. So if you want that, go ahead and again, click either somewhere on the screen and or in the description below so that you can get that PDF. Now, if you're new around here and you're not yet subscribed to my channel and you've loved this video, please go ahead and like this video, and then make sure you also subscribe and hit the bell to be notified each week when I release another awesome video on building your own online business and succeeding as an entrepreneur and business owner. All right, that is it for today. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.